Hello, guys. Hello, hello. Welcome to Guyz MMA Talk, coming at you from Ben's house here in, my house. And I am here to discuss the results. And later in a later video, I'm going to be giving the predictions for this week's fight card, or this coming week's fight card. This one is going to be the results of this past weekend's big UFC and Bellator fight cards. The first one being UFC Fight Night between Rafael dos Anjos, the former UFC lightweight champion, and the number 7 ranked Paul Felder, who came in at 5 days short notice to get into this fight. The second card, which is the Bellator card, featured the continuation of the 145-pound men's featherweight Grand Prix tournament to determine who the undisputed featherweight champion is going to be, as well as a winner of $1 million. And that is the continuation of that tournament. Featured 2 fights, one technically for the UFC featherweight title, because one featured the current featherweight champion. What was it? Patricio Pitbull taking on Rafael Carvalho. Very impressive performance by Patricio. And the second tournament matchup taking place in the card featured Emmanuel Sanchez taking on I forgot his name, Victor Pichel. I'm gonna find out right now. Let me see real quick. He's one I'm not too familiar with just yet. Main card. Daniel Weichel. Sorry. I don't know why I thought Victor Pichel, but Daniel Weichel. So this is going to be a fun show for me. I'm going to have a lot to talk about, a lot to go through here with this card. So let's just get started, shall we? Let's start off with UFC Fight Night between Paul Felder, the Irish Dragon, taking on Rafael dos Anjos in what proved to be a fantastic main event. I thought that this fight was fucking awesome. First off, it really was a great fight. And to me, it was definitely the fight of the night for the card. Rafael dos Anjos looked great, fantastic. Paul Felder looked just as, if not even more fantastic, given the fact that he came into this fight on 5 days' notice. He was a short notice call-up for this fight after Rafael dos Anjos' original opponent, Islam Makhachev, was called off being in the fight due to, I believe, an undisclosed injury. So that's really unfortunate for Islam, because this could have been a coming out party for him, but it's just his coming out party is going to have to wait another day, unfortunately. But that's all right. Rafael dos Anjos took advantage of that situation that took place, and he ended up defeating Paul Felder in a unanimous decision, well, not unanimous decision, victory. At least I thought it was unanimous decision. One of the judges apparently has his head up his ass, and he picked Paul Felder to win the fight 48-47. And I don't get it. I had Paul Felder winning 1 round in that 5-round fight. So I thought that was really weird to see a referee. And by the way, I want to call out this referee. I have a whole segment today of referees that I'm going to start on this podcast, and I want to continue going forward. It is the referee's name is Chris Lee. Chris Lee, who picked Paul Felder over Rafael dos Anjos. Yes, apparently Bruce Lee split his head in half or something, because I really don't know what Chris Lee was thinking, picking Paul Felder as the winner of this fight. Maybe he saw something that we didn't, but as far as I know, everybody else that heard that score couldn't believe what they heard, so I don't think that's the case. I thought Paul Felder, he looked great. He looked like a fantastic fighter, really, for what he did. I have a lot of respect for him. I already had a lot of respect for him going into the fight, but man, what he fighting for his family, literally his father, his late father who passed, and coming in 5 days notice, trying to defeat a former champion in that short of time frame, and looking rather good against him, but Rafael dos Anjos kept backing him up to the fence, and that was really the way to beat Felder, who I guess I keep learning about MMA every day. I guess it's where Paul Felder wasn't in the gym for a number of months, self-admitted, to the point where I guess he could build up more lactic acid when the grappling of the fight occurred, or his body was able to more develop that quickly. Since Paul Felder didn't train in grappling, and Rafael dos Anjos did, because he was training against Makhachev, and Makhachev is like a multi-time world champion Russian grappler. So to see, it was a clear advantage in that front. Rafael dos Anjos and his coaches clearly noticed that, and they took advantage of that. So, yeah. But the fight was banging the whole time when it was on the stand-up. I'd say Felder it was pretty damn close of which fighter was better in the stand-up. But I'd say Paul Felder looked just a little bit better in the stand-up, but I could be wrong on that. In the ground, though, even though Paul Felder got up multiple times and he proved to be good, I think he seemed to be getting tired in the end of the fourth, but particularly the fifth round. And I think Rafael dos Anjos kind of pulled away with the fight with that regard, to where he won the fight. And that was a big win for Rafael, and I think he'll be back in the rankings at number 7. And that will be very interesting to see as he enters into the division that he once was the champion in, and then he lost it, and he went to welterweight and had some success there, but now he's back here, and we'll see what he does. We'll see what he does, man, because I think he will be very effective in this division, and I think that Rafael is a dangerous dude for anyone in this division, particularly if Khabib Nurmagomedov is indeed retired. And look, I don't see Khabib coming back to fight any of these 155ers. I don't see him coming back to defend for the championship anymore. So I don't know. We'll see. But I think Rafael will be a very scary opponent for these top lightweights who are also gunning for the vacant lightweight championship. So it's very interesting to watch that division as it's playing out right now. And with that in mind, who does Rafael dos Anjos, who do I think he should fight next? And who do I think Paul Felder, who I really don't feel like I'm giving Paul Felder the credit he deserves. Paul Felder, what he did this week, or last week, with coming in on short notice like that, it's incredible. I thought it was awesome. It was a big risk, and he still did it. I'm not crying, I'm yawning. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But I think Paul Felder, hopefully he doesn't drop that much at all from the rankings here. I think it was a very close fight too. It was closer than the score gives it credit for, I think. Or split decision. It kind of makes sense that it was split decision in a way, right? Because it really was closer than it would have been at 50-45 unanimous decision across the board. I think it was different from that. So, yeah, I think Paul Felder deserves all the credit in the world, and I hope he doesn't really drop from the rankings. I really hope not. And I can find out if that's the case right now when looking at the UFC rankings. And as I'm going there, and which rank could each fighter go to based off their performance? And okay, Paul Felder is at number 7. Okay, clearly they did not change the rankings as of yet, because Rafael dos Anjos is not in the rankings still, and Paul Felder is still at number 7. So they haven't changed it yet, but what I suspect will happen is that Rafael will take Paul Felder's spot at number 7, and Paul Felder might drop to 8 or 9. That's what I think will probably happen, because the UFC, they have too much respect for Paul Felder to where they won't drop him too far. And plus, you know, looking at the people that are behind Paul Felder in the rankings right now, I mean, it's Diego Ferreira, Al Iaquinta, who last time he was in the octagon, he lost. Kevin Lee, last time he lost. Beneil Dariush, he won, but it was last time he won, but it was against an opponent that had no business really fighting him yet, and plus Beneil is too far down the rankings to go past Paul Felder. So I see Paul Felder maybe dropping to number 8, and maybe Diego Ferreira taking his spot. But you know, Paul Felder doesn't need to. No, he doesn't need to even drop. Even I could see him fighting Diego Ferreira next, for God's sake. So that would be interesting. But you know, that's a possibility at least. I don't think it will happen, but that's what I think is a possible outcome of this. And as for Rafael, I think Rafael could fight, definitely not Diego Ferreira. Maybe he could fight Charles Oliveira. Nobody's talking about him. A fight between him and Charles Oliveira would be very interesting. And, you know, looking at the lightweight division, with Khabib, I'm assuming Khabib will be gone. I'm assuming he's not in the lightweight title picture anymore. I think what will happen is Justin Gaethje is going to fight, well, let's see. I think Justin Gaethje is probably going to fight Dan Hooker next, because all the other 4 guys in the top are busy. Because I think Tony Ferguson, he's going to fight Michael Chandler next. It seems to be going that route. And Conor McGregor, it seems to be going the route that he's going to fight Dustin Poirier. So that's what I think what will happen. And you know, as I'm looking at this, I think what should happen is a Grand Prix. I think a Grand Prix could happen with this. have those 3 fights that I just said occur in the Grand Prix, in an 8-man Grand Prix, and the other fight being Charles Oliveira versus Rafael dos Anjos. I mean, to me, that's perfect. If those 8 fights occur, the winner of that Grand Prix wins the lightweight championship and becomes the new lightweight champion. To me, I think it's pretty easy to book, and it can happen, but the UFC needs to be interested in that. That's what it seems to always come down to, is the UFC. At least to me, I'm always worried if the UFC is going to be interested in something or not, because it really falls under them. So, unfortunately. So yeah, I think that I think it writes itself in terms of the rankings to figure out a lightweight champion. Put those 8 guys together and have them duke it out, and we'll find out who the champion is. Boom, there we go. What else? So congratulations to Rafael dos Anjos. I thought that was very impressive. Let me go back to the judging, though. The judging, though, to me, is the most annoying story coming out of this card, particularly. And it's yet another indictment in MMA of how the judging system in MMA needs work, and it needs to be corrected. There just needs some accountability. There needs to be some accountability from the judging side, because I don't think, as a fan, that these judges are being, I I don't know. They're not being put up to task with some of the ridiculous scores that are put up. I mean, look, I like Paul Felder. I really like Paul Felder, and I was kind of rooting for him against Dos Anjos, especially when Dos Anjos was taking him down. But, you know, Paul Felder did not deserve to win that fight. He lost. He lost. And he lost a number of rounds to one round. Not Paul Felder winning 3 rounds to 2. No. That's just no way. I think that, and this judge, Chris Lee, this judge named Chris Lee, I think Chris Lee needs to be put up on something that I am creating in this podcast going forward. I'm going to create a new segment for this podcast, for this weekly podcast for Garage Guyz Sports, and it is called the MMA Judging Accountability Chart. Or I'm gonna come up with a better name right now. It is called the Judging Accountability Chart. There you go. No, I'll come up with a name. It's some sort of accountability chart for judges, and that was my grand intro. That was my grand intro for the whole thing. So there you go. There you have it. That is the name. The Judging Accountability Chart. Not the name. I'll have to work on that. I'll have to work on that name. But it's basically going to be, I'm going to come up with a paper chart, a document chart on my computer of like which judges have have had a number of bad scores on a particular card, or they could just have one bad score, but that one bad score, I'm going to document that shit going forward. I'm going to write their name in this judging chart, and I am going to mention the specific instances where I was like, huh? If it's egregious enough, I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. And I'm going to put a 1 point thing if it's egregious. I'm going to dock 1 point on their chart, and that's going to be their rating. So basically, if their rating is a 0, they're a good judge. If their rating's like 20, they should not judge an MMA fight. That's just that's kind of what I'm thinking here with this chart. It's an accountability chart. That's what it is. It's an accountability chart that will account for all the egregious judging errors that these specific judges are making. So I could specifically point out the bad judges that really need to have a talking to, because these judges, they're getting away with some robbery here in the sport, and they need to be taken to task a little bit with what they have been doing. And if people in MMA, if the well-known people in the MMA community are not going to specifically name judges, then I will. Then I will specifically name them and ask, look, I don't want to confront them, but I just want to ask, what are you watching? What are you watching? Well, I kind of do want to confront them. What are you watching? Because, I don't think you're watching the fight. Chris Lee was not watching this Paul Felder, Rafael dos Anjos fight. No. No, he wasn't. He was not watching it. Rafael dos Anjos won that fight. Chris Lee was on acid or something, because I don't get it. I don't get how he scored 48-47 for Paul Felder. I thought that was ridiculous. And for that, I'm going to have Chris Lee be the first person on my paper. The accountability chart, goddammit. Accountability chart. He is going to get 1 full point. If it's like, I'm not going to have every bad score that I think is bad be 1 point. If it's like a score where it's quite debatable, but I just happen to disagree, maybe I'll put like half a point on there so people could end up with, I don't know, like 2.5 points maybe on their card or for their name on this list. But if it's like super bad, maybe I'll put 2. I don't know. I can change that over time. So we'll have to go to each. We'll have to look back at each fight if I disagree or something later. But that's kind of what I'm thinking here. To put a point chart about which scores these judges have put to where you're like, what? What? So that's my stance on that. And I've been kind of wanting to do that for a while because the MMA judging in this sport, it needs work. I'm not saying it's bad. You know, there's a lot of good. The majority of decisions are good, but when the majority of decisions are bad, they're bad, and they also cost. They also greatly affect MMA careers. You know, particularly if they're title fights. I mean, the judges this year, they affected Dominic Reyes pretty bad with him losing to John Jones. I didn't watch the fight, but you know, from I'm assuming that everyone out that since everyone thought Dominic Reyes won, I'm assuming Dominic Reyes probably won the fight if I had to watch. But I think that should be noted that I did not watch the fight. Um, they definitely got it wrong. They got it wrong with Max Holloway versus Volkanovski too. They kind of messed with Max Holloway. It is what it is. Yeah, and it sucks, Max. It sucks. So that's why I'm putting this accountability chart on. It is what it is, judges. I'm going to put this accountability chart on. There you go. All class to Max, though, for saying that. But this chart is going to come on, and I have a couple other scores here that I'm like, huh? When I looked at this card that I am going to dock as a point as well. And also, as I'm noticing with this UFC card, the judges, they change for each fight. It's not the same three judges for every fight. You know, they're smart enough to where they give them a break and they kind of have them change. But maybe that's not the answer because some of these scores on here I think are kind of suspect. So they're not the worst scores I've seen in a fight card, but it's not good still. So let's take a look at the continuation with this fight card. Next fight we had was let's see. Next fight we had was the co-main event of the evening. As I go down this list, it was a short fight. Let's just say that. Chaos Williams with one hard jab knocked out Abdul Razak Al Hassan in 30 seconds of the first round. Oh man, this was a fucking powerful, devastating knockout. It was awesome. I saw the knockout on TV, but still, it was like, what the hell? What the hell? That was such a good knockout. This Chaos Williams from Detroit, this dude's a badass. This dude is legit. And I love his saying of when he knocks out fighters. He says, "If people sleep on me, that's okay. I'm gonna have the doctor wake them up." It's like, oh man, that's a good saying. I like that. I like that a lot. That's a creative saying. This dude's pretty interesting. He was staring down Abdul when Abdul was walking into the cage, and Chaos was just staring him down the whole time. And I thought it was very. He was just very impressive in the short time we saw him. And this is another under a minute knockout in only his second UFC fight. So he hasn't even been in the cage for more than a minute. So he does not waste time in terms of getting his finishes. The UFC has a star on their hands here. They have a star on their hands, and I don't remember who Mike Perry is fighting, but for this upcoming show. But whoever wins that fight between Mike Perry and the person that's fighting him, that winner should fight Chaos Williams next. I think that's a great fight to put up. And man, this Chaos Williams is a knockout artist, and I am very interested to see how he progresses into the welterweight rankings here. Another thing I thought when watching that fight is like, man, people in Detroit must be some tough SOBs over there. There must be some tough SOBs in Detroit. You have, I believe Mike Perry is, well, no, he might be from like Flint, Michigan, or I don't know where he is originally, but Mike Perry's from close to there. You have now this Chaos Williams. You have Kevin Lee, his brother Keith. I mean, that's a scary list of guys right there. So, I think that, man, this Chaos Williams, though, he might be the scariest because the way he knocked out Abdul was just sick. It was just sick. There's not much really to add, honestly. I'm trying to add more, but there's really not. I just want to see him back in the cage, and I think we might see him back in the cage before 2020 is over. This dude is something to watch. I'm looking forward to him. So, yeah, he definitely had to win performance of the night. I'm assuming to get a knockout like that, like by far, performance of the night. And, yeah, that was pretty awesome. The next fight on the card was probably a card, I agree with Josh Thompson. It was probably a fight that shouldn't have been on the main portion of this card. It was a strawweight fight, the third strawweight fight of the night between Ashley Yoder and Miranda Granger. Ashley Yoder from The Ultimate Fighter, and who's won her last couple of fights, I believe, or at least her last fight. She won this fight by decision against Granger, and I had it to where Ashley Yoder pretty much controlled the entire fight, and especially almost finished her in the last round, but she just ran out of time. I had her winning 10-9, 10-9 in the first and second round, and winning a 10-8 round in the third round, to where she won 30-26 in my card. Let's take a look. Get out the judging accountability chart. Let's get it here with some of these decisions here based off this card. Chris Lee, what do you know? This fucking idiot Chris Lee scoring Ashley Yoder 29, Miranda Granger 27. Well, you know what? I can't really fault that one. I don't know. I'm not going to debate that one because, you can sort of debate that Miranda might have beaten Ashley in one of the first two rounds because there wasn't a lot of competitiveness. There wasn't a lot of just offense in the second round, particularly, but both in the first and second round, and it was pretty close in both of those rounds. So, you know what? Chris Lee, I'm not going to bash him there, actually. So, sorry for calling him a fucking idiot, but, man, that score he did for the third round, I was like, what? Miranda Granger, or the other judge that scored it 29-27, which I still disagree with, was Derek Cleary. Derek Cleary is another judge that I've heard a lot. I've heard his name a lot. I'm not going to bash him here for this card. I thought that it was. I didn't agree with both of those judges' cards. I agreed with the other judge's card, which was 30-26. Ron McCarthy. I agreed with him, but the other two I didn't agree with. But yeah. Chris Lee is not having a good night. He did not have a good night Saturday, in my opinion. I thought his judging was, ugh. Let's take a look at the next fight below, which I thought was the most satisfying fight of the night to me. Sean Strickland defeated Brendan Allen by TKO in the second round, and man, Sean Strickland laid some punches on Brendan Allen throughout the fight. Just very, just straight punches, not a lot of wind up to it or power. And it began to weather Brendan Allen very much, and you could tell, and it was very effective. And Brendan Allen it caught up to him in the second round, and he started to get rocked. And that's when Sean Strickland I don't want to say he picked his shots, but he was very good at his aim in terms of finishing the job with Brendan Allen. But he still was just lunging him, and he happened to get him right there, right in the button. I don't know. I don't really train a whole lot. I've only trained a couple times, but yeah, it didn't seem like it was a very strategized punch to me, but I could be obviously wrong on that. So I don't know. I don't really train, but yeah, there you go. I thought Sean Strickland did a very impressive job. I'm very happy for Sean as a fan because Sean's been around for a while and he's always been impressive. But it was getting to that point to me where it was like, okay, you've been impressive, but now you got to go up, like you, or you're going to go down. It's just the way the beast is, and I think that Sean Strickland delivered here, and I am very excited to see him now as a middleweight and to see where he goes because I think he has to fight a ranked contender next. That's what I think, and I think Sean. Let's see who Sean will fight. Brendan Allen, he's going to be given a good opponent, but it won't be a ranked opponent, obviously. Uh, let's see the rankings for middleweight. Well, there you go. Middleweight. You know, I could see Sean Strickland taking on a guy like Brad Tavares or Marvin Vettori's been victorious, so for him to fight somebody below him, I don't get that. A Brad Tavares or an Ian Heinisch maybe, or an Omari Akhmedov. Marvin Vettori might make sense, but I don't know. I don't see that being a fight that will just, based off timing, I don't think that will happen. But I could see Sean Strickland fighting possibly very, I don't know if it's likely, but possibly fighting before 2020 is over. It could happen. So if not, I definitely see him fighting early 2021 for sure, no question. So we'll see how that goes. I think Sean Strickland has earned a ranked opponent now, though. This was a very impressive performance. He really put it on Brendan Allen, who I think he was going to beat Sean Strickland convincingly, but it was the total opposite. And Sean Strickland now is a guy where I'm like, I want to see what he's got. I think he's a fun addition to this middleweight division, and so I want to see him fight one of the guys I mentioned and kind of go forward because I'm very happy for him as a fan. That's the biggest thing because it's like he's been in the unranking area forever, and he's been such an epically impressive talent that I've just been waiting for him to grow, and now we're seeing it. So let's do this thing. I want to watch it, and he's only 29 years old. The sky's the limit for him. So let's see Sean Strickland really perform here. I'm very much looking forward to him growing as a UFC fighter. Final fight that was on the main card is going to be, let's see here. What was it again? It was, yes. It was, no. It was, let's see. Whoops. Sorry guys, technical difficulties. Here we go. It was the opening for the main card. Kay Hansen taking on Corey McKenna. This was the one where I think the judges screwed over the fighter in this card. So eventually the judges did catch up to making the wrong fighter win. And look, I thought it was a razor close fight, a very close fight, but I thought Kay Hansen, I thought she won even arguably by unanimous decision, but I would also go a split decision. You know, she won 2-1 at least. And I don't really remember the fight too well to where I don't know who won, but Kay had her in submission trouble in 2 rounds. So therefore, I think she won 2 rounds. And I don't really think Corey had a solid answer for those significant impacts in those rounds to really overtake the round. So let's take a look at what the judges scored here. And what do you know? Chris Lee again. Uh, he scored 29 to 28 for Corey McKenna. Okay, strike two, Lee. Maybe it will be like two, like an egregious decision, like the Paul Felder one. Maybe that will be 2 points, and this one where it was close, but you made the wrong call. That's like 1 point, and one where it was pretty disagreeable, like but it could be very much debated. That's maybe a half a point. I'll have to work this out. It's a playable system, see clearly. But I'm going to have Chris Lee. Chris Lee, you got 3 points already in my chart, in my accountability chart. 29-28. He picked for McKenna. Another one was Sal Diamato, 29-28. Sal is another guy I'm going to look up closely. And Derek Cleary, Derek Cleary also scored at 29-28 for McKenna. It was a unanimous decision win, and I didn't agree. I don't agree with that decision. So I have all of them at 1 point. Doc. Sal Diamato, I've seen bad scores from him before, so I have a feeling I am going to see him again on this list in an egregious way. It's only a matter of time. So let's take a look at the next few fights on the card. The next fight is going to be the feature prelim fight on the card, and that was Randa Marcos in the strawweight division, taking on the newcomer, former, I think she was an Olympian wrestler. I said from Japan. They said from Japan, Kanako Murata, making her debut. Alrighty, guys, back. Sorry, some noises were coming up, but yeah, I didn't agree with the decision on Kay Hansen and Corey McKenna. It's going to be interesting to see these two women, though, go into the rise in terms of their UFC careers. I think both have an enormous amount of potential. And it's going to be fun to watch, both of them, as they grow as fighters. I don't think they're going to stay in the strawweight division for long. I think they're going to grow, like literally, as people, and they're going to get older and grow and mature more in their bodies, and I think they'll grow into the flyweight division, just like how Alexa Grasso just did for her career. How she went from strawweight to flyweight. I think the same thing is going to happen with these two fighters. I don't really think they're going to be a factor in the strawweight division. And even if they did stay, they need to grow as fighters because they're not going to get in the top 15 right now. Not with what's going on here, but they will. They will grow. It's just they just need to. That's all. But they will. They will grow. Actually, I was talking about the feature prelims here from the last part of my videos. Randa Marcos taking on Kanako Murata. And Kanako, I believe they said, is like an Olympian wrestler from Japan, or she has defeated Olympians that went on to the Olympics. And the wrestler they mentioned is from the United States. So this woman's the real deal in terms of wrestling and the grounding fighter. I think she won the Invicta FC title before getting into here. She made her debut. Comes off as a very impressive fighter, and she will be an impressive fighter to watch going forward. And I think she's going to get right into the thick of things here from beating Randa Marcos, who I agree with all the judges here. She did win, I think, 30-27 by unanimous decision. So it was a very clear victory for Kanako, and she has some devastating ground and pound on the ground. I don't know what it is about wrestlers. I think it's their body structure, but it's like, I don't know for sure. But they have always had the biggest ground and pound. That's why Mark the Hammer Coleman is so good at ground and pound, because he was a wrestler, and good luck trying to deal with his ground and pound. Holy shit. His ground and pound is lethal. You also got Curtis Blades. You got a litany of wrestlers that were just epic ground and pound guys. Cain Velasquez. I mean, the list goes on and on. Brock Lesnar had some good ground and pound. So yeah, I think their ground and pound is epic. But Kanako she has giant arms too. She's gonna be hard to deal with in this division. And I don't know if she's gonna get tired. She's just gonna keep wrestling and wrestling most fighters to the ground in this division. I don't know if she's going to be able to do that with every fighter in this division, though, because we're dealing with some elite level ground fighters here in this division now. And Randa Marcos, that's one that's known for her wrestling. Another one is Carla Esparza. But you got some ground people in this division that are super effective submission wrestlers. Let me get to the rankings to mention some of those fighters. I know a good amount of them, but I want to just not forget any names. You have Carla obviously is up there, but man, they put Yan Xiaonan ahead of Carla in the rankings. I don't know if I agree with that, but you have obviously Claudia is one ground fighter, but I think she can deal with Claudia. I think this Kanako can deal with Claudia, so that's fine. But you also got Amanda Ribas, who's a very high-level black belt jiu-jitsu specialist. You have Mackenzie Dern, who's like an epic world champion grappler in jiu-jitsu. Where's Tati? Oddly enough, Tatiana Suarez is not on here. That's weird. But Tatiana Suarez is another one where I'm like, yeah, good luck dealing with her on the ground. You also got Lavina Souza, or no, not her. You got Verna Jandaroba, who is a world champion jiu-jitsu grappler. I don't know. Who's Lavina Souza? I forgot who she was. Oh, okay. Yeah, not her. But, man, this strawweight division is getting more and more impressive, I tell you. But I don't think Kanako, just because she's a really good wrestler, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be enough to deal with some of these strawweights. This strawweight division, it's the best MMA women's division in all of MMA, no doubt in my mind. And so, yeah, I don't really. This is going to be a tough go, no matter how good she is on the ground. And who I think she could fight next? She could fight Felice. Felice Herrick just got off a loss. It would make sense to fight someone that's coming up in Karato. That would be a horrible fight, though, for Felice. 2 ground fighters in a row, and she's more of a striker. I don't know, man. That's a tough fight. Lavina Souza would also make sense. Jandaroba, I think she's fighting Mackenzie Dern, so that's off the table. So, yeah, Felice Herrig or Lavina Souza would make the most sense for Kanako. Randa has one more, she could still be in the UFC. I don't think she'll get released or anything, but, she needs a win. She needs to get another win under her belt. She's been on a little skid lately. It sucks though. I like Randa as a fan. Who else we got here? Next fight below was Michael Gravely taking on. Sorry, I don't want to butcher his name here. Geraldo de Freitas, or Tony Gravely. I'm sorry, Tony Gravely taking on Geraldo de Freitas. This was arguably the fight of the night. If Paul Felder and Rafael dos Santos didn't appear on this card, this would have been it. I think they should have got a fight bonus still. I think Gravely and Freitas, they fought till the very end of the bell, and Freitas looked good. Geraldo looked good too. He was attacking him on the ground when Gravely took him down. So the scorecards on this fight, Dave Hagen scored it 30-27. Gravely, makes sense. Sal D'Amato, here we go again, scored it 29-28 for De Freitas. Yeah, that's wrong. Mike Bell, I'm not going to attack him too much. He scored at 29-28 for Gravely. But Sal D'Amato, again, another guy who I know I'm going to have a problem with him because he's made a number of mistakes that I've seen in the past where I'm like, what? Like, that were bad mistakes, too. So, I think, I'm going to have to add a point on him. He has 2 points now on the judging accountability chart. So I think that, I think Tony Gravely should have won by unanimous decision. I think he probably won 29-28. I don't remember it too well, but I do remember for sure that Geraldo de Freitas did not win that fight. I will say that. Next fight below on the card was Alex Morono taking on Rhys McGee. Rhys coming off that devastating loss to Khamzat Chimaev, where I don't think he even landed a strike in that fight. And Alex Morono, he's a tough guy. He's been there in the UFC for a couple of years now. So he's a tough customer to deal with. Morono won the fight. He won it by unanimous decision, 30-27. A weird moment in this fight where the mouthpiece fell under the octagon to where they had to look for it, and there was some blood in the mouthpiece, so they washed it with water. A fun little break there. A good striking match here between Morono and McGee. I thought this could have been a contender potentially for a fight of the night if there were just a few more shots maybe landed. I don't know, but Morono was the experienced guy, and he ended up winning the fight. I think that was a big factor in the win. So Morono won, I think, handily 30-27, and that's what the judges got on there. Be interesting to see how Morono progresses from here. He won't fight a ranked opponent, but he should fight an interesting opponent, like maybe a Cowboy Oliveira or something like that, but we'll have to wait and see. Next fight on the card is the curtain jerker for this fight, the very first one of the night. We had Don'Tale Mayes taking on Roque Martinez. And Mayes won by unanimous decision. Richard Winter scored at 30-27. Junichiro Kamijo scored at 29-28 for Don'Tale Mayes, but I'm not going to bash that too much. That's not a bad argument. And Dave Hagen scored at 30-27 for Roque Martinez. Also another thing to factor in with these judges is that they see the fight like on their screen or in the cage. They only have that one time to score the fight, and that's it. They don't get to look back and take a look at the fight like maybe other sports do. So you have to factor that in with judges, but I thought Don'Tale Mayes won the fight. This was a fun heavyweight fight to open the show. Roque Martinez does look like a heavyweight, and it's fun to see. But this was a fun fight. I very much enjoyed it. Not much else to add. There was a lot of striking involved, and I think it's going to be... Don'Tale Mayes will be a fun customer and Roque Martinez will be fun people to watch in some heavyweight fights going forward. Alrighty, that is the UFC Fight Night card. Let's take a look at Bellator. Bellator 252. Between Patricio Pitbull and Rafael Carvalho, as well as Emmanuel Sanchez versus Michael Weichel. That's right? Michael Weichel. Daniel Weichel, I'm sorry. I'm getting his name wrong. Let's see. For this card, I want to go from... You know what? I'm going to do the same thing with this card. I'm going to go from the main card to the prelims. And I'm not going to deal with the judging too much here because I think they got it correct. And I don't want to look for the scorecards. But I think this was a fun card, man. Top to bottom, it was very intriguing. The Aaron Pico looked like a threat, like a champion in the making. So he looks amazing. I'll talk about him in a little bit. But let's talk about Patricio Pitbull versus Pedro Carvalho. Patricio looks like one of those champions that are in their prime right now. He looks like a champion to beat, like a tough champion that nobody can beat right now in his career. He looks like he's in that stage of his career, and he looks very impressive in the way he just destroyed Pedro Carvalho. A young, promising Pedro Carvalho, but man, Patricio dropped him with every shot he gave him in the first round. It was getting bad. It looked bad too from watching the fight, but then Patricio landed like a straight right, something like that. He landed a straight right, and or left hook even. I'm not sure, but it was a little small shot, and Pedro was dropping down at that point, and then Patricio, I think that's where he landed the straight right, and that just launched him backwards. He was already knocked out at that point. The fight was over in the first round. Patricio looks like a super dominant champion that could fight Alexander Volkanovski anytime and maybe beat him. It's very much a toss-up between him and the other featherweight champion in American MMA, Alexander Volkanovski. So, I think Patricio, I think he'll win this tournament. I don't see anybody beating him. That's just my opinion, but I just don't see it. I don't see anybody matching him. Patricio looks like a super dominant Hall of Fame caliber champion that's in his prime right now. That's what he looks like. And I don't see anybody beating him. So, I don't know. I'd love to see him go to the UFC, but it doesn't sound like it's going to happen. Seems like he's pretty happy in Bellator, and it's going to be very interesting to see him versus his new opponent, which is Emmanuel Sanchez. Emmanuel Sanchez looked awesome in his fight versus, Daniel Weichel, I believe. I got it now. Yep, Daniel Weichel. Emmanuel looked like a stud against Daniel. It was a very dominant performance. Few 10-8s maybe, I don't know, but Daniel might have won one round, but that's it. And Emmanuel just ran away with it, just out punched him everywhere, had him running, almost finished the fight maybe once or at least once, but maybe twice. Emmanuel looks like a real deal. That's a scary dude to deal with. And I think him versus Patricio, I don't know if I'll give a lot of chance for Emmanuel Sanchez, to be honest. But I know for sure that it's going to be a fun fight. Either way, I think that, with all due respect to Emmanuel, I don't think he'll win. But I still think it's going to be a fun fight. And, man, I'm very much looking forward to that fight next year. I think it's going to be fireworks. Let me tell you. Emmanuel just out-volumed him. He looked like he was an Iron Man in there against Daniel Weichel. So hopefully that is a fight that we will get to see sooner rather than later. And I think we will. Both fighters seem pretty unaffected by their fights here, and there wasn't a lot of punishment, especially on Patricio. So I'm sure we'll see that fight very soon. I'm very much looking forward to that semifinal matchup of the Featherweight Grand Prix in Bellator. I think that is a sensational matchup, along with Aaron McKee and Darian Caldwell, which I'll talk about in the next video. But, yeah, I think that's a very interesting fight right there. Next fight, the other fight that was on the main card was honestly the most intriguing fight to me on the night, which was the undefeated and still now undefeated Yaroslav Amosov from, I believe, Moldova, taking on the 11-0 but now 11-1 Logan Storley. And man, what an epic to the wire fight this was. It was everything I think we hoped for a big game. Just a super close fight between two incredible contenders for, to prove and see who's the best. and Yaroslav managed to etch out a win against Logan Storley, even though Storley almost had him finished in the fight. Storley had him in a submission choke in the third round, but I think Amosov, no, I think they just ran out of time. I don't know if he escaped or not, but he had him in big trouble. He had him in big trouble in that round. And in the second round, Amosov had Storley in a number of choking positions there, so he had Storley in trouble. So it really came across in the first round to find out who the winner was going to be, and Storley tried to take Amosov down so many times, and Amosov stuffed pretty much all of them. I think Storley might have taken him down once, but so did Amosov. He was the first one to take someone down in that fight, actually, when he took down Storley. And I think Amosov landed maybe a couple more shots than Storley in the first round. And just from those shots, I will give Amosov the win. That just from those two shots, Amosov is your winner today. He almost had his first loss while he was 24-0. So, man, it's close call. Close call for Amosov. I really thought he was going to lose that fight, but he managed to stick it out. I don't know if Amosov is going to fight the Douglas Lima next for the title. It would make all the sense in the world to me to have him fight him next. For God's sakes, he's 25-0. But after this fight, I wonder. I wonder, is Amosov ready? Is he ready to fight a guy like Douglas Lima? I don't know. It's a great question. But you know what? It doesn't matter if you're ready. Sometimes you're just next, and that's the way it is. So, yeah, I think this was an awesome fight. It was a very grueling fight, too. Both guys were exhausted by the end of the fight. And, yeah, just very tough fight. I thought it was the fight of the night, though, arguably, and just excellent performance by both men. I'm very much looking forward to seeing how they will progress in their careers, because they'll only get better. You know, Storley, he has nothing to be ashamed of. He will get better. Amosov has obviously nothing to be ashamed of either. He will get better, and I am looking forward to seeing Amosov face Douglas Lima, and these two will face each other again, I think, someday too, and that will be a fun fight as well. Hello again, everybody. I am here for part 3 of this video. Sorry, I heard some noise back outside, but next fights that are on the Bellator 252 card are all the prelims. Let's get right to the feature prelim. Let's talk about Aaron Pico. Aaron Pico destroyed John De Jesus with a knockout KO. I believe John De Jesus, from the shot, he flew back in a way to where people call it like a scorpion, the way that people fall back like that. And man, it was so impressive. Aaron Pico was so impressive in this fight. It was like incredible to watch. He took him down the entire time. He got him in had him in trouble with some striking. But man, there was nothing De Jesus could do with the grappling, though. That was just nothing he could do. And you can tell Pico is listening to his new coaches, Greg Jackson and Brandon Gibson, who are some of the best coaches in the world in MMA. And they have Aaron Pico in their back pocket, man. And they are, they are really growing this already elite athlete who was like the youngest amateur wrestler to almost make it into the Olympic Games. A lot of people thought he won the wrestling match that would have qualified him to get into the Olympics, but he still lost. He's an elite level boxer, and I believe some boxing trainers said he would have won the Contender Series. He's just he trained some of highest level boxers in training, so he's like a Golden Gloves level boxer. You know, he was going to be a threat going into MMA, like a huge one. And he's so young too. That was the thing. He was like 20, and he's had a couple of losses since then, just due to him not putting all the wrestling and the boxing together as an MMA uniform for him, according to a lot of experts. And he got a couple losses in Bellator that he shouldn't have lost in. And I think from moving to to New Mexico, where Greg Jackson and Brandon Gibson are, he really seems to be growing a lot as a fighter, and it's getting kind of scary how good he's getting. He looked like a future world champion on Friday night. It was insane how good he was. He just beat the brakes off of John De Jesus and knocked him to another dimension with his shot. It was insane. Very impressive finish by Aaron Pico. I think the sky's the limit for Aaron Pico. I think in a super competitive featherweight division, Aaron Pico is right there with being in the elite. You know, he's getting right there, so it's getting kind of scary now. And it will be very interesting to see who he fights against next. And yeah, I want to see it. I want to see him fighting some of the best now in that division. And yeah, let's do it. I'm ready. I'm ready to see it. So Aaron Pico looks like a very scary dude. He looks like a future world champion. He looks that good. It's kind of getting crazy. Aaron Pico is a guy to watch, and I think everyone should look out for him because he could be a future champion. Next fight below that was maybe to me, honestly, besides Patricio, this was the most impressive performance of the night. It was Carrie Melendez, who's the wife of MMA Hall of Fame worthy former Strikeforce champion Gilbert Melendez. She took on, I gotta go back to, she took on Emily King, who has been in the Bellator cage before. Carrie Melendez beat the brakes off of Emily King. Apparently Carrie is a former kickboxer, and it showed throughout this fight. She was just piecing up Carrie with shots the whole round, really. The fight only lasted one round, 3 minutes, and man, it was just so impressive how she just beat her up on the feet. And when it got on the ground, Carrie, it was very impressive. She hurt Emily with one punch, with a punch shot to the face, and then she was backing up. Carrie went over and she kneed her right in the gut, and that hurt. And that's where Emily went down. And I think Carrie got her back, and that's when she got a rear naked choke on her for the finish. It was super impressive how Carrie won that fight. It'll be interesting to see where she will go as she progresses into the Bellator. I mean, she's going to have to fight at flyweight. I don't think there's a strawweight division. No, there's not. There's not, as far as I could think. There's not a strawweight division, so she's going to have to go up to flyweight and fight. And but I know. I have a feeling that she could do it. She could be still a big threat there, because she's good, man. She's really good, and I think she could be a big problem at least in terms of striking with the fighters in that division. I mean, look out, everybody, including the champion, Alima May McFarland. I think this Carrie Melendez could be a very impressive fighter going forward. And you know, she goes with the crew of Gilbert Melendez, the Diaz brothers, Leslie Smith. I mean, she knows her way around the ground, I'm sure. So yeah, she's going to be hard to deal with going forward. So very impressive win by Emily King. Honestly, I was most impressed with that performance that night. Well, I already heard about the Patricio knockout, unfortunately, but you know, I did not hear about Carrie Melendez. Carrie Taylor Melendez, I should say. I thought that was very impressive. Next fight below was a pretty unanimous decision win between Manny Murrow, who's also from Aaron Pico's camp in Jackson Wink MMA is what the camp is called. Very impressive, very infamous, a very famous camp. John Jones is in that camp. Holly Holm is in that camp. So a lot of notable names in there. Manny Murrow taking on Devin Powell. Manny Murrow beat Devin pretty impressively by decision. Devin was in UFC. I remember him fighting in the UFC before this. After Manny won the fight, Manny apparently was very impressive. This fight and the fight, especially the fight after this one that I'm going to talk about, I kind of didn't watch that much. I was on my phone a lot at this point. Manny was apparently very impressive though, and he seems to be the best he's ever looked according to the announcers. So he seems like a promising fighter going forward. Devin Powell dropped the gloves after the fight and he retired. So he called it a career. He's only 32 years old, but this is a hard game, man. It's a hard game to deal with, and I don't blame him. So he called it. After the fight, and salute to Devin Powell. I wish him nothing but the best, and wish him nothing but the best. But Manny Murrow, man, can't take anything away from him. Manny Murrow was very impressive in this fight, and it's going to be interesting to see how he progresses in the Bellator cage going forward. The next fight we have on here was the fight I really didn't pay attention to, quite frankly. Jornel Lugo defeating Skylar Sudo by unanimous decision. One score had it 29-28, the other two had it 30-27. Jornel, again, I didn't pay much attention to this fight. Apparently Jornel looked super impressive according to the announcers, and he's going to be somebody to watch in the division he's at. But apparently, clearly I didn't watch his performance, so not much to really add, unfortunately. But I'm looking forward to seeing. I thought both guys, for the few times I saw the fight, looked impressive. So I'm looking forward to see both guys getting in there and fighting again. Maybe the second or third most impressive performance of the night goes to Lucas Brennan, who's only 20 years old still, defeating 33-year-old Andrew Salas via unanimous decision. Two scores had it 30-26, the other had it 30-27. Lucas Brennan completely destroyed Salas on the ground. It just was like a man playing with a child. It was, in this fight, technically a man playing with a child, but a child was playing with the man in this case. It was kind of crazy how good Lucas is on the ground. It's just, insane. And he's been on the ground his whole life, on the mats and stuff. His dad is like an expert jiu-jitsu guy, and I think he was in MMA well before, so Lucas grew up with this stuff, and it just seems like Lucas could be a very big contender down the road. Once he learns, striking and all that stuff, he'll be a very serious fighter to deal with going forward. It's going to be very interesting to watch. And Lucas clearly had a lot of fun in there, and he was very comfortable in the cage. And credit to Andrew Salas. He didn't get submitted like Lucas's past opponents, but he had no answer for Lucas throughout the entire fight. It was very impressive to watch, and Lucas is really a high-level black belt on the ground. He's so good on the ground. He's going to be somebody fun to watch when he progresses up in the division. I think Lucas, I don't know who he should fight next. I'm not really keen on him seeing a big fight. Why the rush? He's only 20 years old, so let's take a look and see what he's got. Let's just keep the process going that he's on right now. He's doing a great job. Next up is Roman Feraldo defeating Pat Casey via TKO. I believe this was in welterweight. Roman looked pretty impressive in this fight. Casey didn't really seem to have an answer for anything for him. Roman seemed to really use his height, and he outskilled him a little bit. And I think he used like a flying knee to take him out, and that crumbled Pat Casey on the ground. That had him go his knees on the ground, and Feraldo was striking him to the point where that finished the job, and he got the TKO. Very impressive win by Roman Feraldo. I thought that Roman he's going to be another interesting guy to watch going forward. I think he still needs to get a little bit, I don't know. I don't feel like he's as good as the fighters above him. Maybe he needs to improve on his skills a little bit, but besides that, he's coming off as a very sound fighter still, and he's going to be an interesting guy to watch as he progresses. Final fight to talk about was the curtain jerker for this Bellator event, and it featured Gracie, the name that started all of MMA, pretty much, taking on the Gracie that was fighting. It's a new guy that I've never even heard of. His name is Conry Gracie, and he seems to be a younger fighter too. He took on Trevor Good, who's 6'7", for his weight class. I think they're like 155 or something, like insane, or maybe a 170. Still insane to be 6'7" at that height. Trevin used his height very well, and he was able to grapple with Gracie on the cage to where Gracie couldn't do much. And eventually Gracie got tired, and Good is so tall that he managed to just lift his knee, and even when Gracie went down a little bit, the knee hit Gracie, and he was dazed, and Trevor ended up striking him to the point where he got a TKO, and Good got the win. And good job for Trevor. I'm very impressed, and looking to see him move forward on things. But honestly, too, I don't know. Honestly, the story to me of this fight was that I was kind of sad. I was kind of sad for the Gracie name. The Gracie is what started MMA. Royce Gracie is what started MMA. Who was in Conry Gracie's corner, by the way, along with Henry Gracie being in the corner as well. I think, I'm stretching my neck. It's amazing to me to see how big this sport has grown over time from 1993 to now, to where Royce Gracie, nobody could touch him at that point, absolutely nobody. And now it's like Gracie is losing in the very first fight of a Bellator card. That's kind of what we're seeing here. And look, Conry Gracie, he needs to grow as a fighter, and we got Caesar Gracie, we have a Gracie right now in Bellator that's close to fighting for a world title, but I don't know. It's just sad to see a Gracie lose at this level of competition. A Gracie should always be kind of considered a high level for even Bellator and UFC, not to where they're losing to the first guy in the first fight of a Bellator card. I don't know. I think that's very telling. Hopefully Conry gets better, but if not, then nothing really you can do. The sport is going to get better, and that's just the way the sport grows. People move on, and the Gracie name will never be forgotten. Obviously, that's what created MMA, but I just didn't like seeing that. As a fan, I'm just being honest, I didn't like seeing it. And I think with that will do it. That will do it with my reviews of the UFC Fight Night and Bellator card for this Garage Guyz Sports MMA talk. And thank you for joining me on this Monday afternoon. And I appreciate it very much. You could follow me on this page of Garage Guyz Sports Talk, as well as my Ben Burnside YouTube channel, where I talk about everything else, basically. I have some combat sports reviews on there as well. You can check that out as well. Just search Ben Burnside on YouTube, and you can find me. Alrighty, guys. Until then, I'll catch you on the Burnside. Stay fighting. Stay strong. Alright. It's a bad slogan. Have a good one.